Well, thank you all for coming out. This is one of our regular town meetings, town forums that we do. If any of you are here for the first time, I'll give you just a quick little overview. We're going to have a few things to say at the beginning, just make some comments, and then you dictate what the meeting is. We'll talk about whatever you want, answer questions, tell us what rumor you're hearing, ask us. Somebody always asks for a stop sign, while someone else said we have too many stop signs. Whatever you want to talk about, you set the agenda. I'm Jim Bailey. I'm lucky enough to be the mayor of this great town. Commissioner Morgan Robinson, Commissioner Rob Lewandowski. And because of our special events over the weekend, Chief Carey is going to talk a little bit with us tonight too. Okay, so I'm going to open up and just talk a little bit about the event that we had on Saturday night about our Quantum Day ride, and a little bit on how that we had a little bit of a pop-up event that was a little pop-up mayhem that was not the greatest. I want to just go over a couple things with you. The chief is here. We'll also just fill in what I don't touch on to give you a little overview of it, but. The event was one in which there were a couple hundred kids that were dropped off that came in on, I believe for the most part, on driving services, got dropped into town. It looks as though things were started with about 15, 20 minutes ahead of time and some kind of social media notifications that went out. It's the kind of event that we've seen a couple times this year. Pennsauken had an event like this, Gloucester Township had an event like this. Other towns have had little smaller events that have happened like this. It created mayhem. These kids came in, rampaged through what was the hayride. Another group of them ended up at the Wawa on Haddon Avenue. Our officers responded. There were 3 officers that were at the hayride, just stationed there for the night for the hayride. And then the other 3 officers on patrol responded as well. Mutual aid responded. The event, we were able to get through this, which didn't last a long time, probably less than an hour. But we were able to get through this without any injuries, without anybody getting hurt. And we dispersed and cleared this crowd out. The cops, the officers did a great job. Our mutual aid assistance from other towns helped as well. Great aid. It was really, it's a really unfortunate incident. It's one in which I'm learning more now about the outlet of the car services, their involvement in some of this, how we can work for the next time to try to avoid this. I know the one thing I know social media was all about was that there were no arrests. Okay, and the chief can fill in on this, but in a nutshell. When there is a situation where there are 100 people that are overrunning with a few cops, if a cop is to stop and arrest someone, if there hasn't been, a crime, a serious crime that happens in front of him, if he stops to arrest someone, 2 cops are then tied up to detain and take that person away. Okay. So with the resources where these groups do these overrunning of a crowd, the policy, the procedures that you want followed are to keep everyone safe, to disperse that crowd, do everything you can to keep everyone that's there safe. You always have the ability, and it's happened with the Pennsauken incident, the Gloucester Township incident, there can be charges brought after. Okay, it's not a situation, a more serious situation where someone's inflicting some harm. You don't do that at that moment. So I know a lot of folks are like, there needs to be accountability. There has to be an arrest made right away. This is the wrong message. That ain't how this works. And listen, when you think it through, it's not how you want it to work. We don't want to tie up officers to detain a kid that's running, screaming, yelling, jumping in line at the hayride, doing that kind of stuff, because it ties up too many officers as there's still a whole lot of people that are in doing things that they should not. So I just wanted to touch on that. I want you to know we're making plans and re-looking at all of our other events that are going to be in the evening. We got holidays coming up, we got a bunch of things that are gonna go on, that are all in the evening. They're all gonna have, we're gonna figure out a way to do all we can to protect against this. But this is our little experience with, you know, this new trend out there. And we're going to be looking whether it's locally what we can do, legislative what we can do, every level we're going to be taking a look and seeing what can be done to try to stop this. Kevin, why don't you just, Phil, I know I talked.
Yeah, so
let's talk a little bit.
I pretty much covered a lot of points. This is not something that's new to us, and we are prepared for a response to help mitigate or lessen the impact of when this does happen. So we saw this, like the mayor said, and go up and down, and that's all we need to do, right? Since that time, Collingswood has had, I don't know how many events that have happened at nighttime. A couple weeks ago was the Booze and Brews event, which was that night, and we saw no issues. There were only a few officers assigned to work that event, but contingencies that we have in place are to have mutual aid partners help us in the event that we do see these unruly groups show up. So it will not change who we are. We do have contingencies in place. Our main priority when something like this occurs is to restore order as quickly as we can and to keep the unruly and the peaceful people at the event safe and disperse them safely, right? That is restoring order. So we try to draw a line between the two, separate the two, and then disperse the two quickly, safely, and efficiently, right? That is our main priority. As far as arrests being made, as the mayor alluded to, you can have 2 officers taken out of that realm of being able to protect people and disperse the crowd to deal with an arrest. Or we can use the investigative tools that we have, whether it be our bodies on camera footage, social media, or surveillance video to help identify some of these actors at a later time and charges can be brought up. So just because they're not done at the time of the event doesn't mean that we're not investigating that and trying to determine who these actors were and hold them accountable and responsible for what they did. Time and place matters. Like I said, the main priority at the time was to restore order as quickly as we could and as safely as we could, which we did an exceptional job in that, in my opinion. Now, me as the chief, it's easy for me to say that, right? But no one was injured and everyone got out safe. So that is my main priority. We were successful in accomplishing that priority in a short amount of time. And I say that I'm proud of the response that we had because we had simultaneous events, one at Wawa, one at Night Park, right? We were able to mitigate both of those issues and disperse those crowds with no major issues, other than the chaos that was brought by those groups coming there. And that was their intent, right? So there was no interaction, and just for a public assumption, there was no real interaction between the groups that showed up trying to fight people who were at the haunted hayride. Most of the groups came and interacted with one another. They didn't really interact with anyone that was there. They were trying to create a chaotic situation, which they were successful in doing. But again, we were very successful in restoring order. So, anything more?
I'm just going to add, on a much higher level, you've witnessed a sort of post-event investigatory incident, and that's January 6th, right? See afterwards all of those people. You know, I would like to see some accountability to the folks that were there, the offenders. I hope that happens. I expect that to happen. But you know, the fact that no one was injured, the fact that it didn't escalate into more violence, the fact that property damage was very little, is positive. Now we just got to get smarter and prepare and focus on following up on what happened, and then also preparing for the next one. And that's where I think we need to do.
I'd like to mention that we haven't lost sight of the fact that there were people volunteering their time. There were children there, there were families there, and it was no question traumatic for them. So when we talk about there were no injuries, there was no harm, it was chaotic and it was certainly problematic, and just that we're thinking about the people who were involved and the difficulties that.
Yeah, so the important piece of that too is not letting that incident define who we are or what we do, right? That is not what Collingswood is. That is not what Collingswood is going to be. And we're going to take the steps we need to investigatively and proactively to avoid that happening. to the best of our ability. It certainly is not going to define.
So I want to open up and just take questions and talk a little bit about this issue, okay? And then we're going to do little statements because there are other things that are going on in the community. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So you want to go ahead?
I'm just curious, around what age group were these marauders?
So what we can determine, juveniles and young adults age range. So 16 to 19, maybe that's the age range we're looking at.
Yes.
You said that they had, they were dropped off. Had they hired somebody to drop them off? Or their parents?
So that's part of the investigative step we're going through is determining how they got it, whether it was ride share or whether they got a ride from someone else. We're going through trying to determine all of that.
It was, I assume that there was something that went out on social media. Telling everybody Collingswood is the place to be.
Initial investigations would show that social media is how the groups came together. Yes.
Yeah, on other instances, it's been social media, like a 15, 20 minute, where this is what's gonna happen. And then a lot of use of the car sharing services, drop people off. Part of the issue, talk a little bit about the issue about dispersal, about getting people out, how that what happened in the other instances.
What happened at Gloucester Township specifically, and the difficulty we see is that it's one thing to have the group show up and then be able to restore order, but then you're stuck with 200 plus juveniles that don't have the ability to get home, that aren't from the area, then have to wait for a ride share program or somebody to come pick them up and get them out of the area. Most of the 200 involved in this dispersed into the neighborhoods, didn't continue with any damage and weren't really stuck in a certain place. But in Gloucester Township, they were in a shopping center parking lot for about 2 hours, waiting for everyone to get a ride and get dispersed. And as you can imagine, during that 2 hours, the unruly group didn't decide to behave themselves. So the difficulties there are immense as well. And again, we have contingencies kind of in place for that, but we're fortunate that we're a small town and our event, a lot of people walk to our events. People up in township, a lot of people drove to that event. So that just had another layer of complexity getting the people who were there to enjoy the event out to enjoy it there, as well as getting a ride share or a ride for some of the events. Yeah.
It's a new trend, it stinks, it's lousy, it's terrible. We're gonna figure out how to address it, but social media has helped, makes it happen. And it looks of the car ride share services, you know, like it used to be in the day, if you wanted to go do that kind of stuff, somebody would drive, 5 guys would load in, they'd have to park the car, you have to, like, it's just not, they can get dropped off like pretty instantly. I have learned since all of this, Uber has a new Uber for Teens program, so kids can just be on the account, just book direct and then pick up teams, created a whole, actually, most of the stuff I read were sites that were Uber drivers talking about all the horrible issues it's created for them as they have 14-year-olds booking, getting in the car and coming here, coming in all sorts of stuff. So what else? What other questions, comments, things? Yep.
Was there any follow-up investigatory where they in the other 2 events where they were able to get anybody?
Yes.
Yeah, they haven't had some
Targets.
There has been success with investigation after the fact. Gloucester Township, like I said, they were congregated in the shopping center parking lots. They actually made some arrests that day. But they had 2 hours to kind of have people safely moved there and just deal with that.
Is there, did they publicize that? Not name the juveniles, obviously, but that they were able to do that, and will be doing the same thing as much as we can.
I believe they publicized that. I couldn't say for certain, but I would suspect that as we continue down the road of our investigation, if there's information that is good to share, then it would be transparent and sharing what we do.
Yes.
Is the Camden County Prosecutor's Office involved in this?
I'm sorry.
Is the Camden County Prosecutor's Office involved in this?
So as of right now, no crimes were committed, if you will. However, the prosecutor's office was notified that the event happened. So I am in communication with them, but no crimes have occurred at this point. That's what the prosecutor's office is.
If they could do that.
And the differentiation there is really persons versus the first, second, third, fourth crime. It's really the difference there.
More
Yes,
research.
sir.
I'm surprised that the PAPCO or train system wasn't a portal of entry that would, I would, anyway, from your standpoint, I would assume that you have contingencies or thoughts about that.
So with Paco, they have video monitors for trains, right? And we are in close communication with Delaware Port Authority, Paco Department. So I'm sure if they saw 70 kids moving onto a train, you could offer a calling station, they would notify us relatively. And maybe that's why they don't. And then the other part of it is, I don't know where the people are coming from yet, but they might not have any stop. Yes.
Yeah, I've noticed, it's not just recent, but the Wawa has a lot of shady looking kids hanging out there all the time, and that just, what's being done about that? But I don't think they should be hanging out.
We get calls, Wawa, Wawa themselves will call, if they think there's an issue with people that are hanging outside.
So, I mean, Wawa is a private business, they let people into shop, they like to.
Well, isn't it a public walkway where people come to Wawa, to other stores?
On the sidewalk, it is technically inside of, on that
No, they're not,
sidewalk.
well,
They're
it's outside the windows, yeah. Yeah.
It's simply someone calls or cops patrolling, find it, they'll, we respond and take appropriate steps. They are mostly move forward.
And there are juvenile laws in New Jersey that I wouldn't say restrict what we do, but there's parameters in place. What's called a station house adjustment, curbside warning, has a diversionary program for juveniles, but they're not entered into the juvenile justice system for no particular, right? So the diversionary program to prevent that from happening. So a lot of times we do see juveniles get caught for juveniles somewhere. We will give them the curbside warning, which is nothing more than, hey, you can't do here. Or a station house adjustment if they were to do some type of disorderly person offense, where it would be a contract more or less saying, you did this, don't do it again. It's a contract between family and juvenile.
Anyone else? Yes.
At this point in the investigation, we have not identified any local children who were involved. And I say local children as in school district PTA event. And as at this point in the investigation, no Collingswood, Oakland, or Woodland students were involved.
Yep.
Has the borough considered, like, for future events, bringing in people like either from like the county, Parks and Rec, community emergency response, to do volunteer security for events? Would that have, do you think that would have, having like people with radios standing around might have?
I don't think it would have had any impact for this incident. Like I said, officers around 8 o'clock at night noticed the groups of juveniles congregating and being dropped off. Like 8:20, around that was when we got a call for the fight. At that point, we had already called from 8:20 to start coming in. So the officers that were assigned to work the event recognized what was going on and called immediately.
And there are a number of different things we're looking at. We'll see as we go along and work with the organizers for other events this evening, what to do. 4th of July, this 4th of July, this was, one of our concerns. Preparation for the 4th of July, we just had, Pensacola and Gloucester Township had little festivals where they had these events, and we didn't have anything, and it was, we had a really
so I can see the
extensive
for that one. We had an extensive ring around the event itself, and I had around 30 officers assigned to work the 4th of July, with an additional 50 on standby to respond to situations. So we had a much larger response in place for 4th of July, but the event itself is larger, right? So that's the reason we kind of look at the draw the event might have and try to set up plans to have adequate visual aid to work quickly these events.
Yeah, no, on 4th of July, we had the whole, when we closed the park to vehicles, right, for 4th of July, mainly because there are so many people in the park that as time went on, when we still had vehicles going in the park, it used to be everybody parked in the park and went into the high school. Now the high school area is filled and people are all over that park. And we had vehicles, people impatient on the roads to leave 4th of July would start driving over the fields. And the difficulty was there's still people out on the fields on their blankets. So we stopped vehicles anywhere in the park. That's now created a huge area that is cordoned off. And we had extra manpower along because we have such a huge area that we're trying to cover to make sure everybody stays safe.
Lighting is also beneficial. Just started investment in like towers. Reason being, so most of these incidents are happening at nightfall, and it's certainly at night. You don't see too many of the flat top that things happening in the day, if at all. So we have invested in some lights, and we do have a partnership with the county that we could bring additional light towers to light the area up, because that just helps with people in a chaotic situation getting out safely and helping us to identify something.
Yes.
Speaking of lighting, the irony for me is that my husband and I were taking a walk around Nice Park, I guess before this fully happened, but there were tons of kids there. And it was really dark, and we're walking on the park side, you know, where the asphalt sidewalk is, and I kept saying to my husband, if we wanted to make some money, we just trip on this sidewalk, and I actually had to use my phone light to see where I was going. So I was noticing that there were tons of people in the park. But the lighting situation overall around that park is really dangerous. So
well, the park is closed.
yeah, it's the sidewalk. It's the sidewalk.
It's not.
Yeah, the lights are on the other side, right? They're on the other side. I mean, I've had the same problem, and I pulled out my. The easiest solution is to go to the sidewalk side. But you know, people will make their own decisions. But yeah, it's definitely darker there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's dangerous. So I know it.
Where the light is.
Right.
That's not dangerous.
Right.
And typically the park photo stuff.
And lighting it is
Yeah.
an option because it's detrimental to wildlife.
I'm not talking about lighting the park up. I'm not going in the park. I'm on the sidewalk.
No, yeah, I know.
And you know, when it's uneven as it is.
If anybody would like to come have seats in the front.
Yeah, you guys want to sit in the seats up front. You don't take collections.
You're gonna get us.
Feel free to come up.
Feet, backs.
Fuck, grab a seat.
Maybe for them.
Who else? Anybody else on it? You can ask more later on too. Any other comments, questions about this? Okay. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about other borough stuff. Okay. Things that are going on. I'll touch just one development issue. And we'll get into all your questions. This picture we have up here, this is, I know there's been a couple news stories about it, but we have a buyer on the former Ocean First, former Sun Bank building on Haddon Ave. It is a developer from Philly who is planning to build a second floor onto the bank. It's a little tough to see probably from where you're sitting. You're welcome to come up and take a look at this afterward, but we refer to it as kind of like a Hearthside building construction, where Hearthside is. So what they're going to do is build the second floor kind of on pedestals that'll be out a little bit from the first floor. Okay, so it'll be a little kind of breezeway underneath, and they'll build the second floor. It'll have 9 residential units above. One of those will be an affordable unit, and then kind of the back portion of the property will become a public parking lot. It's just going to stay as a public parking lot, not the back. But that is where we have an agreement, and we're hopefully moving forward with that to get that project moved along, get that property used up. That's it.
Yeah, I know this one. Well, okay. I'm just going to talk about across the street. Well, you know, across the street, we've talked about we're planning to put park, right? To have some downtown public space is an important thing. We're excited by it. We put together our bid specs. You've seen the plans. We've got feedback from the community. We put it out to bid, and the construction bids came way over budget, far more than we had anticipated. So we've now went back and sort of sharpened our pencils and sort of adjusted our expectations of what we'll do in the first round of construction. Because one of the things we can do is look, let's get this place up and running. Let's get it started. Maybe we change materials a little bit, but we can always add elements and add things in the future, right? Just like the things at home, we don't necessarily take on all our projects at once because there's budgetary constraints. So that's the way we're looking at this. I think it might be even as early as November that we can go out to bid, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
No, not to,
Well,
not to
I'm
start,
very
not
call.
to start, I'm pretty sure.
Weeks.
So just, that's another project, and just because it's next door,
Yeah. Hang on one sec, we'll get to the ball. We're gonna,
It just, the design of it will effectively lengthen the business district as well. We always have a hard time getting people to keep going to the businesses that are located from down the road, and it should help that.
because the first floor will, I don't know if you said that, will remain.
right, okay, open it up, you guys, yes.
Just really a big problem here. With that area there, the parking is awful around the fountain. When you try to define, why are people parked on the straight lines all the time on this side of the avenue?
Well, if they're parked on straight lines, they're parked illegally.
And they're there
And that's
all
because
the time.
people are crazy about parking, but, we just need somebody to call and notify the cops, like, we'll come out. We've been trying to tighten it up, people are, since pandemic, people do crazy things.
And it's one of the reasons why we sort of called it audible and said, look, let's keep the back part for public parking. To make sure that in that area, there's at least more available parking.
On both sides, from the right place and the front side.
I don't disagree, now let us know, we'll get out of course. Yes,
Hi. So you said that the bids came in super high for
Yes.
the public space. Obviously you don't know if the deal is totally going through. I just wondered if there's any possibility to leverage back developers infrastructure to bid, to have them bid on the park, since long we be there.
the pocket park is gonna happen, we're doing the pocket park, we're changing some of the materials getting used, we're knocking the price down a little bit, that's gonna happen. Okay, there's not, we'll be able to talk to them about leveraging, but with 9 units, there's not a whole lot of leverage.
Fair enough.
Okay, some of the projects that people have come in with that they wanted to build here were 6-story, apartment buildings that we just, thought it was just totally inappropriate for, if they all wanted to do lumberyard over there, right? And lumberyard's got a train sitting behind it. This has residential neighborhoods, so that just didn't work. This is more appropriate. Okay.
Jimmy,
Okay.
the apartments or condos?
Apartments.
Just apartments.
Yeah, apartments. Yes. Yes.
Given that we sent out a 13 referendum needs shut down, are you actively working with the school board to try to help them draft something that would be acceptable to you and to the voters?
Well, the day before the election, I called the superintendent and the president of the school board. President of the school board, I left a message, I didn't get a call back. My message was, whatever happens tomorrow, the day after we're ready to start working with you. So I left that same message for the super, he called me back, we talked a little bit. I have not heard from them, I talked to him this week about something else, said, we're ready, we're ready to talk, to start going to work. And so far it hasn't been any. They're in the midst of a school board election, so, we'll see where all that shakes out. Hopefully we are. Yeah, we are, absolutely.
And there's also been members of the community have reached out about the schools and, asked for our opinion, asked for our involvement. And, I think the hope is whatever this process looks like, that everyone's part of it, feels that they have ownership and can get their.
Quick dovetail on that.
Sure.
So, been through some booms in Collingswood. Obviously, I haven't been here for a long time, but we're in like a kid boom right now. All right, and that's benefiting the municipality, right? You guys, we have a lot of population growing here, that kind of stuff. Is there anything the municipality can do to shift some of your budget to help the school district out? Because we do pay our taxes for some of that to that, and you guys the first of that over to the school district.
So we've had discussions here about all that, okay? At our commission meeting, that was a hot topic of conversation. The municipal budget is subject to the same cap that the school board budget is subject to. Okay, we have a cap. And our spending, could we go above the cap and tax you more and give that money to the schools? Yes, we could. Our process for doing that is to do a referendum to exceed the cap. The school, let me finish my answer, okay? The school board has the exact same powers to go above their cap to increase their operating budget. It's not, no, it is not a situation where we can say, in our budget, we say, okay, we're gonna take, you know what, we can take 100 out of this and give it to the schools, because that 100 is paying the cops, picking up the trash. Like, we don't have.
You don't have options that change what you spend your money on?
Sure we do, sure, how many cops do you want us to have? How many cops do you want us to have? Do you want trash only picked up once every 2 weeks? When do you want? Sure, we have all kinds of options, but not realistic ones, no. And nothing that comes close to what's been what's been told to us, right? It's like a $2 million gap is what they want to fill. You have to increase taxes. But that's what you have to do. You have to generate more money. It's not.
I understand how.
It's not okay, but
I do.
It's not like we.
And I do want my trash picked up still, but at the same time, I do feel as though, as a community, like when I moved here, people are like, "You might want to send your kids somewhere else." I'm like, that's weird. And then I keep hearing this kind of stuff here and there about the disconnect between the municipality and the school board. And as a young person with young kids coming through here, that's kind of like weird. I grew up in South Jersey. There's a lot of strong school districts in South Jersey, a lot of strong communities in South Jersey. I don't know why this one can't be the same.
Can I just jump in? Because I sent 3 kids to the schools. I'm very happy with the education my kids got. And all during that time, starting when my first kid started school in 2010, you know what I heard? You shouldn't send your kids to the schools. It's not a new thing said, and sometimes they come from different places. Sometimes those people are not, there's code to what they're saying that I don't appreciate. I can tell you that I've had kids that need special services. I've had kids that, wanted to be challenged. I've had kids that did athletics, kids that did music, theater, and I think it's good. We should always be looking to get better. And we know over the last year or two, there have been incidents in the school that certainly are trouble, especially at the high school.
I'm definitely not talking about that. That's out of your control.
No, but okay, we all right?
Either we're all in it together, okay, or we're not. Okay, and we want, like, listen, just to give you, I don't know how long you've been here, but when was that? Okay, so when the Parkview always gets started with the pilot park, but in Parkview, when we sold that project in 2006. The borough made like a $4 million profit. Okay, we had invested $6 million, and when it sold, we paid our 6. We made a $4 million profit. We took 2/3 of that and gave it back to taxpayers. We sent checks. Okay, we took the other third and we invested in the schools, and we did it in a way that made sure it did not impact their state aid, okay? So we didn't put it in the budget. What we did, this was the time which also then, we all worked together to get a $30 million bond passed that did the high school and the middle school, all that construction. Well, at the end, as that's happening, the schools don't have the money to outfit the TV studio. They wanted to do new, what was the Microsoft Blackboard, or whatever they smart boards. That was the new thing there. So we took a million out of the profit from Parkview. We bought that stuff, put it in the schools. Okay. So when we can, okay, like one-time money that's coming in, we have the pilot. Number of years ago, we said any new pilots we do, we were going to dedicate substantial portions of it to rec fields. Okay, now said that 3-4 years ago. Said that at meetings with the school board members, who were all like, great. At meetings, to start a rec plan, had a rec plan going. And then we go into the referendum chapter. Without we didn't know anything about it. We knew nothing about it. Okay. So yes, we want, it's critical. We're happy. I think there are things we could do. We happen to know, I know properties that are, we know properties coming up and we're going to be available sooner than the school board does. And all of that stuff's got to get like factored in. Yes, we're more than happy to all the time, but it is not an answer to take $50 out of the municipal budget and send it over to the schools. Like that, there isn't a $50 in the municipal budget that like, we don't have like walking around. It's just not structured that way.
Thank
you. Okay?
How much is in that fund, the borough fund for the rec field?
Not a lot, because the only pilot we've done is for 900 Haddon. And it's like, I want to say it's like 75 grand is what we have so far, because it doesn't start, that pilot doesn't kick in until they complete their renovations. And that's only been like a year or so, and it's like 75 grand. I want to say Cassandra is home sick tonight, but yeah, she would know for sure. But like roughly 75, 100. Yeah, I know 75, 100, like roughly. That's what we actually. Okay.
So some policy in place for like future pilots and.
Well, that's what we've said we're doing. That's what we're trying to do when we have any other long terms. The water tower back here is a prospect for that, but we only have 25 different obstacles to get that to be somewhat real, down the road.
And the cannabis businesses that were.
Cannabis, yeah, that's the other revenue source. Yeah.
Another revenue that
we said that's another. The schools. We get 2% on the retail. There should be one opening back in November. Okay. So that's another revenue stream that we have school board like got available that we can divert in.
And understand, it's not just you just want to give them money. That the idea of using this for rec program, that they can use it for their school athletics and activities, but we can use it for recreation. So now we've got more value out of this space by partnering. So that's the important thing. The other thing is I don't want to minimize that, we don't have very real needs in Collingswood, in municipality, right? There's been changes in the palatable water laws that change, that have us having to replace a certain amount of the infrastructure every year. We have to express valves that have been open and breaking. PFAS, the forever chemical, working through capital initiatives around that. And that's still, you still got your roads, you still got all the other things you need. Staff costs always go up, healthcare costs go up. So I also want to say it's like there's, budgets are tough. So we struggle to make it work here too. So
and even just on like a piggyback on PFAS with water, we've spent about $4 million now on doing upgrades to the water system to meet brand new standards, okay, that the state adopted a few years ago to meet those standards. Well, now in this last year, the federal government has adopted brand new standards that are more stringent than the state. So we're going to have to spend more now to meet those standards. So like I get where the school's at. I have thoughts about why it's where it's at, but I get it. We have had issues about, retention of police officers. It's not it ain't a real popular job to have anymore. And we were losing cops to towns, right? Because we're suburban towns that were paying more money. And so we had to redo all the negotiations we did 10 years ago to cut back on salary guys. We had to bump up, as an impact on us, but needed to keep people in. So yeah, we're happy to sit and collaborate and work together and do it all together.
And the school board elections that are coming up in November, that sets a great opportunity to set that tone immediately. The incoming school board, that's what we're doing. Like, understand when you get sworn in, you're working with us too. Like, would you just do it? Okay.
Yeah. We can all meet with them. I'm nervous. Okay, what else? Insult meetings, yes.
I have two questions.
Loudly.
Two questions. One, in regards to the picture there, with the new project. Question number one, is that a Collingswood project? Is that owned by Collingswood? Collingswood's gonna own?
No, we're selling that to a developer who will develop that project.
So that answers question number one. Question number two is, are you guys considering putting in the main sewer line that runs down Haddon Avenue towards 130 within this project?
Replacing it all?
No, not replacing it all, but considering doing some work to it, because for the last 18 years that I've lived on the lower side of Collingswood, every single year, every winter, it's a problem. Every winter. I know that because I'm probably the first person to call at least twice a week. And my house is literally the first house off of Haddon Avenue on East Franklin Avenue. And my clean out is literally the first one that takes the hit every single time when it backs up all the way down.
So well, the area right where this is, that whole run for a few blocks there, that was all replaced when the lumberyard came in. Okay, the new sewer lines were all run out on that stretch of Haddon. So what's going on down here? I can go over with you, or we can take a look and see if there's a more permanent resolution there.
I just wanted to know, you said East Franklin or West? Franklin?
East Franklin. So the new pieces from the lumberyard takes it all to the old pieces down because it flows.
Oh, no, we haven't done, yeah, listen. Stay tuned to your tax bill to replace like all the sewer lines due next year, like, you know, it's just a massive undertaking. An incredible cost. We kind of replace it. The water lines like Rob referred to, there's state law, we have to replace so much length of water lines every year, which we're in that process of doing. And for the sewer lines, it's more on as projects happen, as the roads get redone, as you know, something's happening, then we'll go in and redo that infrastructure.
And we shouldn't forget stormwater, right? We're seeing now, because of climate change, you know, more powerful, more precipitation, and that has to go somewhere. We're surrounded by all these bodies of water and a high water table, and you know, these are challenges that we have to think about. Find those pinch points and try to get them up there.
Here.
Yes, yeah.
The property across from the PNC Bank, the empty lot.
Yeah. Yes.
Used to be like a gas station.
Yep.
Do you know of any plans for that property?
There's a plan that we saw, which we thought they were building, which was a couple commercial units on the first floor and a few residential, like upstairs. But the folks that own the property had kind of abandoned the project. They weren't going to do it. We've been told it was up for sale.
We asked them to put it for sale sign.
Yeah, we told them like
you can't just leave this blank.
Yeah, you have to put it up for sale. So yeah, that's where it is. Okay. It's been cleaned.
Yeah.
Which is a huge step. We'll get there, Marilyn. Yes.
Mayor, I was wondering, when we're redoing our streets in town, is there any way we can look into incorporating like a concrete gutter where it butts up the base of the curb and then they asphalt up to that?
You can, I can ask engineers, not my gig. The engineers were constantly, especially with stormwater and flooding and trying to control that flow.
I think it would help with drainage.
Yeah, listen, every street we do, they're taking a new look at the stormwater because it's just, you know, like you see in the world, places are flooding that never flooded. Yes, sir.
I kind of wanted to follow up on the gentleman behind me regarding Franklin. I live on the 200 block of Haddon, and since October, I think I've called the sewer emergency line about 10 times to come out and clear out my curb vent. And every time the public workers are prompt, they're quick, very helpful. They've noted excessive grease, collapse. I think the last gentleman that came out reported bricks. He was actually pulling out of the main sewer line. And I get that the undertaking of redoing the sewage line is very expensive. And I understand doing a project like this, right, you're just gonna be looking at that area, potentially redoing that area. However, I don't see any reason why scoping our downtown or us downstream can fix the issue. I'm getting sewage in my basement. My neighbor gets human feces in his backyard. I mean, I have photos of, without being vulgar, feces on my sidewalk I live right next to Action Karate and right near Mark Newby. Kids are walking by all the time. I'm waiting for the day where I'm not home and I don't catch it and I just have a buildup of, feces in my basement.
Well, listen, first I'm hearing about sewer issues down there, even though I hear you call for help on it. We'll talk to the engineers tomorrow and have them get down and take a look. What can be a more permanent fix?
I've talked with Superintendent Steve DiOrio before. He's talked about putting our area on a preventive maintenance schedule. I've seen no evidence of that. The only time I ever seen the main, it's the large trucks, is again when me and most likely the gentleman behind me call, which seems to be weekly. I have events, I host, parties at my house with family. Planning on having kids one day. The last thing I want them is playing, what they ate early that day. So
we hear you. We'll have somebody down taking a look.
Thank
you. DiOrio's not. Is DiOrio here? It's not. Okay, that's another check. Not here. Yes, sir.
Hi, how you doing? Okay, how are you? My name is good. My name is Tony, 27-year resident. I live in Franklin Park. So it had the house was just reappraised. Yeah, we got the notice about that. Whoever came out, really nice gentleman, was professional, didn't take long. My question is, I believe this is our first reassessment in a long time. What can we expect as far as our taxes going to go up? What is your expectation? Are you guys expecting more money from that? What's going to happen next?
Sure. So we get no more money. We don't collect any more money. The schools don't collect any more money. It's the same budget. If our budget was, let's just say our budget was $1 million. The school was $1 million. All the properties get reassessed. We collect $1 million. The schools get $1 million. We don't get any more money. Okay. What it does is it can shift who's paying what. Okay. And the line is always, when a reassessment is done properly, a third of the properties may see their taxes go up. A third will stay the same. A third will go down. And where you fall in that is simply a factor of how much has your house appreciated in value when compared with the average. Okay. So if your house, your house could double its assessed value. If it's valued at 100 and your assessment goes to 200, it doesn't mean your taxes are double. If the average in town was everybody's houses double, okay, then you're going to be average. You won't see any increase. You won't see an increase. But if the average in town is that it doubled, but your property for whatever reason went up 4 times that, okay, then you will likely see an increase in what you're paying in taxes. It just redistributes who's paying what based on the value, the fair value of their home.
Based on previous history, can you throw out a percent? Looking at 1%, 2%?
No, it's like a third. I'm telling you, it's a third. You're processing this, right? Remember, you're going to get a notice. You should be getting it soon, but there should be notices going out. You have an opportunity to meet informally with the rebound company. They usually work out. Unfortunately, I've been around for a few rebounds. And I can tell you that we've kind of gotten it down. We don't have big outcries, we don't have big fights with folks, but you get an informal meeting, you can have a dialogue with the reval. Then if you aren't happy with whatever adjustments they may make, you always have the right to file a tax appeal and take it before the County Board of Taxation. And it's really saying, look, the value of my house. It's opposite what we all want to do every day, right? You go saying, hey, my house ain't worth what my neighbor's house is worth. No way. He's got the bigger yard. He finished his basement. Mine looks like awful. Look at how bad my windows look. Look how terrible it looks. I don't have that value. Like there's a process that you get to go through.
If I could ask just one question. Based on the real estate taxes, can you break out the percent a school, police department? I don't need to broke it down per.
It's like 45 school, 25, 30 municipal, the balance county. Little tiny sliver is library, in addition, and then the rest is county. All parts.
So school, biggest part, 45.
School, that's the bigger piece. the school's like kind of close behind it, a little bit behind, but we're behind it. And then the county makes up the boundaries.
And in New Jersey, school districts.
So the referendum 14 gentlemen was talking about, was that with, Good Shepherd buying that school? Was that, so I'm sorry, I missed it. What happened with that?
The referendum was voted in.
So we get a couple magazines in the town. One, 08108, we get a Collingswood one. I'm very surprised. They did a comparison of both school districts. Ranked them on rankings for high school. Haddonfield, number one, again, Oakland, Audubon, 4 or 5. We were 18. Like I was surprised at how low we ranked when it came to things on SAT score things. The one thing we were up there was the ratio of teachers to students. We were good. You guys have been here a long time. What happens? Like, why are we 18? I mean, how do you feel like the taxes are high? When you go to Oakland or Audubon, our kids, why are we so low?
I did not see it. I would love.
Did anyone else see that?
I just would love to see where, like, what they're offering.
It's just, I don't know. We don't run the schools. We don't run the schools.
Right.
And sometimes, if I do have something to say about it, some people don't like that. Some people in this room don't like it if I have something to say about it. Okay, so you gotta, they're elected, there's an election coming up, they're elected officials, that's their, that's their responsibility.
I guess it's just, I think, on the 20th.
But that, I don't know why SAT scores are, I have no idea, we don't know.
Just one last question.
You said that before, go ahead.
Reflection and they now collecting shrubs and stuff on a different day, or do we have to call to that?
I think you're back in regular time.
Yeah, all those in yard waste, not leaves, goes regular track.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you're up with raising your hand for a while.
I have a couple of questions, but before I go, this woman has had her hand up for a while, so I'll let her go.
Sorry.
I just was getting frustrated with all this conversation about the school board, and I wanted you to clarify, you're not in charge of the school board. It's totally separate from your responsibilities, and maybe everybody doesn't know that, but
We have no
they like to blame you when these things happen, but it's not your
no
purview.
authority whatsoever.
Yeah,
Like I
so I
said,
just wanted you to
sometimes
say that.
people get upset if you do have something to say. Yes.
I do have a couple of questions,
Go ahead.
and it will be quick. The first thing is when you have to upgrade pipes or water, all of that, whether it's a mandate from the state or the feds, do you get any financial support to upgrade those?
No.
That's the first thing. Second, my name is Tammy Austin. I live in the Young Lumber Yard. I've been here about 4 years. I should preface before this question, I do sit on the police chief's advisory board. And so he didn't ask me to ask this question, so I don't want you to jump to his head. But when it comes to retention of officers, are we at par with the other areas around us? And if we are not, how do we get there? Because it is reasonable to be concerned that we have officers that can't afford to live in the community that they serve.
So it's not an uncommon problem, okay? But I can tell you, and I will round the battle for Kevin, okay? What I will tell you that what the borough, officially we've done is gone in and redone our salaries, okay? And listen, it pained me in a way to do because over the last 20 years, we've negotiated starting salaries to come down because in those days, the line was out the door for everybody that wanted to be a cop, okay? And now it's not. So we readjusted and bumped all those salary guides up to get us competitive. I think we're certainly much more competitive than we were. But Kevin, we're constantly trying to retain and get cops.
Sure, yeah, we're in the process of looking at all this. We're under contract, so that's another level of complication there. But we are in communication with the borough. The collective bargaining units of the department are speaking with borough officials and the borough administrator, trying to correct that and get us closer to what the county average is, as one of the many things we're looking at as ways to retain people that we have.
And we're fortunate, I just want, and I'll give it back to you, but we're fortunate to have real productive conversations with the collective bargaining agreement. So we try to be transparent, we open the books, we talk about it, and so it's not adversarial, and sometimes they give feedback of, you know, we would like to see more steps, or maybe it's less steps, but a higher, so it's this give and take.
I will say, I am a little disappointed after sitting on the police chief's committee that I couldn't get a parking ticket fixed, but that's. I
find that a big deal.
It's challenging to have a police chief with ethics, but.
That's a really good thing. All right.
When I usually come down Atlantic Avenue and the exit from the spaces where the Wawa is, when you come out, first of all, I'm happy if folks go the right way instead of coming out on Hatton, but when you go out, most folks cannot see the stop sign. And it becomes this kind of thing that maybe they do and maybe they don't. And I've been a victim of it. I've seen other neighbors also step out.
Push in there, the push in there, kind of block it off.
And I'm just wondering if we can put a larger sign or even one of the signs that says look left, look right, look left. So people understand it's actually a full stop and not kind of a yield.
Just write it down.
Yeah.
I've just seen kids on your bikes, I've seen pedestrians walking, and I just think it's just going to be a matter of time because even the crosswalk is not painted. So I think folks assume it's just a natural kind of left or right, whichever way they're going, but they're not looking in the other direction.
Yeah. Now we're gonna have somebody take it. What else we got? You have somebody here?
Online.
You have somebody online? My mom?
No, not unless she cares about pro imports.
What's that?
Unless she cares about pro imports. Someone has a question about the current status of pro imports, that there have been a number of cars on their lot for quite a long time.
What's that?
It's a repair shop at Haddon.
Yeah, next to Newbie.
Yeah. Is it something about the status of it? There's a lot of cars.
They have at least 50 cars on the lot, most of which have been there for months. They're just wondering.
We'll take, so we have a property maintenance task where it meets regularly. We'll put that on our list. We'll get it. We'll go take a look.
Thank you.
Yep, Marielle?
Just in regard to that, I'm not sure they're keeping up with the fire lane.
I mean, have somebody out of the department.
On a more serious note, there have been enforcement actions taken recently by the fire department. We've issued fines. We're taking action. We're doing everything that we can with it that the fire code and the law allows us to do. To enforce them.
That wasn't my question.
Yeah, I was just really caught taking that over fire.
Give it 30 seconds, I'll push it back.
When there was a policy where the fire department was doing inspections of the grease traps in all the restaurants, is that still ongoing?
Yes.
Does that?
Yes, active.
It's obviously pretty crucial.
Active, we got those down, so.
People know that's done and the fire department's trying to help with that issue.
Yeah, we have local ordinance with respect to the restaurants, that there's a grease trap operations and they have to have them cleaned out, certain process again to help sewer lines. But yeah, we have a pretty active program.
And it was a change we had to make because so many restaurants, the infrastructure was not made for this to work. So we put it on to users, said, look, you need to, you know, maintain and change more regularly, and we're gonna do that.
I still have another, I have a question.
Everybody has multiple.
I think we'll start on. This is really my initial question. The leaf collection has been pushed back a week or up a week, so it's later than it used to be.
Okay.
The leaves have collected horribly in the gutters that they're being collected funding, but they've collected horribly, and anything it should be pushed forward a week. Because when my husband went to talk with Public Works, they said the leaves are not falling that early because they're falling later. Well, that's not. I'm sorry, that's not accurate. They're falling earlier because those are dry.
Well, and because it's dry, right? I think next year,
we need to move them. They've been collecting leaves in Haddon Township since September. We really need to do this sooner because all leaves are going to be collected in our storm sewers, and we are going to get a flood in the intersection. I call it Lake Bailey, just because it's right in the south. But we really need to watch this.
Please. You got it.
On the topic of leaves, the other thing you can do is put them into flower beds and leave them on fresh.
We've taken loads of them over to compost, so that we get them in the compost, that's really old as they get.
So why do you put it in the flower?
Because it decomposes and creates a more robust soil and, yeah, you can run it over your lawnmower if you have that. Put it back, just the.
Get some new things, go ahead.
The crosswalk lines, are they gonna be continuing to be maintained like the ones around the fountain that aren't there? Also the ones mentioned that across from the back entrance, I guess, on one of Wawa, that's not there. And then the major problem, cars think it's a cause, just keep going and going and never stop at Pal. Pal in North Atlantic, it's like someone's gonna kill eventually because it's going to doom.
People light it.
So if there's anything that can be done to better that crosswalk, was maintained with this. I mean, you almost see like signs that these stupid stuff. Yeah, put it back in.
It won't, but okay.
Love it, close it like 3, 4 o'clock and,
Yeah.
because everybody uses it to beat the light.
Right, now you have.
Pal, Cutthroat, Atlantic, Power.
And now you have a problem there, they're hanging down, and their kids are hanging at the corner of the wall, and their kids are hanging, and they're riding their bikes the wrong direction, up and down, doing wheelies, where the time, see what's driving.
All right, yep. We get new faces, we'll go around, everyone get a chance, yes.
It's really not consequential, I think. What kind of poles are going up that hadn't least really put the concrete and the anchor bolts in?
There are crosswalk flashers that are, that part of the grant we got from the state, or that it's going on a couple of spots along that avenue. They're like more different flashers for the pedestrian crosswalks. That's what's going on.
And that came out of our pedestrian and bicycle planning that we did with the community. These were certified identified spaces.
What's the update on the recreational feasibility study that was taking place? I guess that was about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, so we last met about it back in February. We kind of, and then the referendum came. And we have kind of held off on doing anything else with it until we got through that. And so whichever way it goes. So we're through that now. And I've tried, I don't know if you were here earlier, we're trying to meet with the board, particularly in the elections. As Morgan said, it'll be a chance for us, like, you know, regroup and talk. And hopefully by the end of the year, we have some new news to get out.
So for what it's worth, I think that if the town were to consider a field, a gymnasium, you know, something in addition to not always relying on Knights Park, which is a great facility, but we don't own it, the town doesn't own it, and or the school facilities, which again, great facilities, but the commissioners don't run those facilities. So if there were other opportunities, because I think I heard someone earlier talk about a kid boom, and I would agree with that. I think there's record numbers of kids doing little league, soccer, basketball, all those types of things. And I think that having more facilities or something other than just relying on the school properties or relying on Knights Park might be something that there's a real thirst for in the town. So
only
thought.
We just need dirt to build it on.
Yeah, agreed. So
that's the issue. No,
yeah.
it's just simply.
Yeah, let's go find.
Yeah. Okay.
You're all very capable people. Let's go.
When you're driving around, you let me know where you see the place that you could build a gymnasium.
Well, what about Good Shepherd? Why don't we buy that gym?
Was that
Good Shepherd?
Somebody has it under contract.
Okay, well, keep your eye out.
Talk about
that gas station that you guys sold.
Needs environment.
The gas station.
Yeah, actually,
up there. Oh,
Matthew's lot is open also.
So we're doing it right. We're doing the rest plan. Hopefully, we got something coming out by the end of the year. Okay, that's all.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, first of all, thank you. I was the beneficiary of the Garfield Ave repavement, which is lovely. But my question is, I was definitely surprised to hear that you hadn't been in communication with the school board throughout the referendum. And so my question is, what is typical? Is there a typical structure in place where there is regular communication between the two entities and that just wasn't in place? Or you were meeting and it wasn't on the agenda? Moving forward,
what are the structural things that we have in place to make sure there is communication, or is it just up to people leaving voicemails on people's phones?
I think there's a lot of communication too, but, you know, but it's also staff as well, right? It's business administrator, the board secretary, the superintendent, and, you know, our public works director and buildings and grounds. So it's constant, right? Night Park Commission, because we all kind of manage that. So there's actually a lot of conversation going on. And it's usually based on carrying on the business of schools, of borough, and where those intersections. So that stuff happens. Then sort of on an informal level, I think there's conversations all the time between here, there. I am very mindful that they're elected to run the schools. I try not to meddle too much, but as much as we can talk, we talk. But with the things we're talking about in terms of structural deficits, capital planning, that's going to require a lot more conversation, and not just between, you know, electeds and electeds, but, you know, the entire community and teachers, you know, have the students involved too, senior citizens. So I anticipate, especially as we're tackling big questions, that there's going to be some sort of conversation. I hope so, because I think otherwise, when you go out for a referendum, people are going to go, "Oh, you're really dropping," you know, really.
Yeah, and there's conversation when there's like crossover issues. So when there's public safety issues that are going on with schools, Kevin and I are in a bunch of meetings with them about that. When the rec plan, we're going through the rec plan, we have a bunch of regular meetings going on about all that. But when the schools put together their budget, like they're not inviting us to meetings for that, like because they're putting together their budget. That's their charge. Likewise, when we put together our budget, we're not calling them in because that's not what we do. We're not in charge of any of those offices. So that's what we do. So it's usually been crossover that way as we're trying to get, you know, with all that's going on in the last, you know, 7 months. We're trying to change that a little bit and have those conversations. So
thank you.
Yes, correct. All the vision. Yeah.
2 questions, I'll go quick. First, it's people I contact about curb painting. I constantly get blocked in on my driveway on Crestmont with people point business about having which people just do it. But it took me 5 full minutes to wiggle my daughter and my car out of there, and that's not going to work.
Shoot me an email just with the address and all. We'll flip it over to public works to take a look. We don't do those everywhere. Typically, it's not done just to protect like private driveways. It's more done like core, like no parking areas.
Okay, but how
so,
do you
I'm here.
So,
but our neighbors have got their curb painted for the same price.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know, but it was even worse.
I
did hear the 2-way, and oh my gosh, the things we had to come up with.
But these give me an email on somebody. They'll take a look.
Second question: who is in charge of the inspections in order to get a CFO when you're buying a house? I was under the impression that if curbs are all jacked up, that whoever the department is, those are the sidewalks that wouldn't pass, and the current owner would have to handle that. I bought a house. It turns out I think whoever does the normal inspections happened to be on vacation that week, and someone else filled in. And now I have Halloween coming up, and in order to have a safe sidewalk, I've got about this much of a thing that I've inherited.
Shoot me the email about it, and I will relay it over to the fire chief. Their crew does it, and we'll get somebody to take that.
Thank you very much.
We'll see what happens. Okay. Yeah, Roll. Yeah.
I just want to preface, you know, the Scottish Rite, the Grand Ballroom, the leadership, the staff, the volunteers. Now that we have shows all year round, again, it's just fantastic, you know, and I love them as a neighbor. Recently, there was a 50-ton unit that was installed in the back of along West Franklin, along with the 25-ton unit that's already there that already cools the ballroom, along with the exhaust fan that from all the events and everything happening at the ballroom. Again, applaud everything that's happening there, applaud year-round shows, but the noise is maddening. I mean, it is constant. From this 50-ton unit, I understand, Chief, we spoke earlier, there was decimal levels taken, but it's not the decimal levels of all 3 units running at the same time, along with overnight hours when the unit is running and there's nothing else. You know, there's no car noise and whatever it may be. So my ask is that if we can just look into some noise mitigation along that fence line, along the mechanicals of the units. I feel like that should have been taken in consideration when the unit was being installed.
Okay, we'll take a look. I know they've been out, I know, but we'll take a look. I'll see what's been done. We'll go into what's been done and what, just exactly what has to, what conditions it held. And then see what we can do. Mitigate the sound.
Appreciate that.
Okay, yeah. Lindsay, you have something else?
Yeah, we have two concerning parking, so we'll do them at the same time. First question is how many off-street parking permits are allowed per household?
Kevin, how many off-street parking permits on street, right?
How many off-street parking on-street parking permits are allowed per house?
How many off-street parking permits allowed per household?
So all of those regulations are on the website. It really depends where you are, how many vehicles you have, how long of a driveway you have. There's a lot of different factors that go into that. We look at each one independently. So every time we get an application, we go out and investigate it. If they have a question online and they would like some further clarification with a direct address, just tell them to email.
Gotcha. Second part of their question is what can be done for vehicles parked for months without a permit? I'm assuming give you a call. Yeah, okay. Second person has a question concerning Harvard Avenue. Currently, there's parking on both sides of the street on the very northern end. Are there any plans to reevaluate? The south end only has one side parking. There are many, many days where I struggle to pull out of my driveway, having to do a multiple point turn just to get out. And people are starting to pull their cars up half to the curb to manage this problem, which doesn't seem safe.
No, we haven't looked at it. Anybody can ask me about that. If you could send an email to us about it, be happy to. It'd be really great if the entire neighborhood wanted to do something. Like we just talked earlier about Prescott and stuff we did there. We had everybody signed on for major changes in the traffic flow. Oh, was that easy to do? Yeah, but yes, it'd be good if everybody was kind of on board and making a change. Okay, what else? Yes. Pardon? Recycling.
So I'm one of those people that's really anal about recycling and checking the numbers and taking the lids off the melting and all that. And then a recycling truck comes by and everything gets dumped in the truck and everything gets smashed down to this garbage truck. And there's no way in hell that I believe that all that plastic gets separated and that anything really happens to that.
So it goes to the recycling center. Okay. And everything that the world, how you handle your recyclables is not the way the trash industry handles your recyclables. Okay. In fact, it is, right, Camden County slogan now is when in doubt, throw it out.
Yeah, which
okay.
My experience with practically everyone I know is when in doubt, recycle.
And you can do that, okay? But that doesn't mean that's how the trash companies are handling.
No, I realize that.
Yeah.
I realize that causes a huge problem. My concern is that if anything actually really happening with this recycling. You know, there was a thing on the news in Houston a couple months ago. Somebody put an air tag in the recycle. And they discovered, probably none of you saw this, that it all just goes into this pile and nothing ever happens to any of it. And I'm wondering how much that's true.
I can't tell you. I've never air tagged it, never followed it. We pay for recycling. It gets, it's those trucks take it to the recycling center. And I think we can try and give you some, who to contact and try to find out more on that. But the trash industry, the recycling industry, the last several years, right, has dramatically changed. The recycling markets around the world have dried up. So it used to be, wasn't that long ago, when the borough would get paid. We would get paid for the recycling we delivered. And now the trouble is there's this much of a contamination of regular trash with recycling. They reject the truck and it all goes to trash.
So does it make sense then perhaps to separate out paper now or separate out plastic, some of these things that actually do get recycled, because the plastic component to it just kind of wreaks havoc.
I'll give you email me, and I'll get you the information the county you talk to. It only makes sense if the places that we're taking it to are handling it. Okay, that's not my understanding of how it's gonna be. Okay, but you can certainly shoot me and I'll connect you in with the, I don't think Jack Swarovski's retired yet, I think he's still there. But get you in Candy County, handling. Okay, sure, yes.
Yeah, the lighting under the speed line has been out for, I think, close to a year.
Okay.
Between, I know at least between Lee's and Irvin. I don't know if it runs down further, but it's really dark.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you have people coming out of Perkins and crossing the street at Irvin and Atlantic. You cannot see anybody crossing the street.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, hang on one second, yes.
So, at the last commissioners meeting, we brought up an ordinance for community energy aggregation. I got a chance to see it. It looks like it's 10% right now, because the original ordinance, right, had a very aggressive renewable component. And this right now, it looks like it has a 10% above the New Jersey minimum.
At least, yes.
Yeah.
So what I was wondering is if there's anything like a stepped program that might be possible in that, where people could opt in for more than, like, say, whatever, it's 45. People could opt in for like 20 or 30 if they wanted. And two, I heard that Cherry Hill also has an energy aggregation referendum passed, I think it was. One of the things that had come up when we were researching, when we had brought this up, it was like 5 years ago now, was that the whole goal of this was to build like regional aggregates. So I wonder if that like might be a possibility, and then Collingswood like sort of, you know, becomes like we had said at the time, becomes like a real leader in this idea that we're pushing forward both cheaper and more renewable energy.
Yeah. So a couple of things is, first of all, thank you. You know, I think these are things that we'll bring up with the consultant. You know, right now, so
does everybody know what
to explain what community energy aggregation is? So essentially what it is, right? You're all have bills for PSE&G, right? Mostly for your electric. What we're looking to do, have an ordinance on the book, is to say, look, we're going to aggregate, put all that stuff together in a program where we can use that buying power to add a greater mix of renewable energy and you know, a price that is not higher. Actually, we're looking to get lower, you know, price of electricity. And the idea is you put it all together, you communicate to the with the residents. People can opt out if they want. They can choose to have their own supplier or 100% or anything, or be a part of this. But we sort of spearheaded, try to leverage all of the individual units to get more. We had something on the book. It had sort of fixed numbers of how much renewable energy needed to be in that mix, and it wasn't affordable because of the fixed number. So the idea of having, you know, flexibility allows us to meet the market needs. So right now, in the state, my understanding of these energy aggregation programs, there have been a lot of them that have been in place. There's one that's operating. So it shows you that the markets are really hard to make this work. So the reason why we have the ordinance as we have it now was the feedback from the people that actually work with suppliers and, you know, say, well, I think this might be a reasonable way to do it. The idea of options, which was the other part of your question, is one I think we should bring up. I know they said they don't want, sometimes going out to bid with too many options would be problematic, because sometimes suppliers go, I don't want to deal with that. And then we lose the competition element of it, but it's certainly worth bringing up.
And I can address the one issue about aggregating with other towns. Early on, the very beginning of this, had a discussion about that, and we were told pretty clearly by the consultant, no. We're at a number that if you're gonna get the best pricing on, adding more on, you're not gonna do any better. Okay, so it doesn't combine, if all of South Jersey was in together, we could get kind of the same rate that we would go, if we get the rates, we go out with it. And what we're doing is go out on an RFP, seeing what proposals we get, and then making decisions whether or not we're gonna put this in effect. And what it means is everybody's residential rates would be at that new number. We're only doing it, it's less than what the tariff, the rate is you pay down. And then people could have an option to add more sustainable options that might, to me, the great situation would be the regular rates are 20% less. And if you want to still pay your same electric bill, you can opt for a greener option and spend that money and get your same bill, but have cleaner energy source. But we'll see. So far in the marketplace, the consultants have said you're not going to get it. The prices are way too high. You're not going to get it. So we'll see what we get this time. What else? Somebody else had one? Here. Yes, I'm sorry. Right here.
Thank you. I'm wondering about the vacant properties on Browning and Haddon Avenue. They are not being maintained, and it's creating a public safety hazard, especially for
the doctor's offices.
The doctor's offices and Matthews.
Okay, so the Matthews, the borough is in a foreclosure action, okay, with to take possession of that because it will give us access to state funds to clean it up. So we're well aware after working on that. We just in the last few days, one of our target properties is the medical offices. Which Jeffrey, you sent out an update today, right?
Yeah, Captain Glaze sent the update. We're having some difficulty in locating the ownership of the property. We issued violations. We finally made contact with the responsible party, and they will clean up the property within the next 1 to 2 weeks to make it much more presentable while they continue the sale of that property.
I like that. Jeffrey said there's a question here. The question was for you.
That wasn't.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
That's it. Okay. All right. Who else? Yes.
Jim, for better business, I've seen in other communities that have the problem we have with parking, we actually work with the state or maybe the federal government. They get funding for a parking garage, and they keep the parking charge at the minimum. And has this group thought about something?
Where have you ever seen a town get money from the state to build a parking garage?
Texas?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In New Jersey.
And where have you ever seen it? I've never been in politics. I don't know. So I don't
do that. I don't do it. Okay.
Okay.
But the water tower developments that we've been looking at. Well, the one thing we want to get out of this is a net increase in parking. Okay. And the hope was that net increase of parking could be, the cost could be offset over the longer term by some residential units, some units being built. Okay. So yeah, we do need to get more parking. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of obstacles to that development. If that doesn't move forward, we're going to be looking at just doing some kind of parking back there to add, increase that, get a net increase in parking.
See, the problem when you have residential above parking, people told me, is always they say, oh, you have one parking space. Somebody moves in, it's 3 cars.
Well,
then it's all taken up.
We have it right here.
Yeah,
it's right across the street. And when you live 2 blocks to the train, okay, that's not what happens. What happens is people don't have to have all the cars that they had when they lived out in Mount Laurel. Okay, they reduce. And when you come into the property, you know this is how many spots I have. Okay, so it works. It works. It especially works when you're this close to transit. Okay, especially works with that.
And the downtown.
And the downtown, yeah, but it works much better. There's less dependence on you don't have families coming in that have 4 cars. Like that's not who comes.
And I think we see that the folks that are moving into sort of like Columbia, they're looking to not be so hard to pay. Right, so it may not be every type of customer wants that apartment, but there clearly are folks that want it. Some of them have $0.
Yes, hold on. Yes, sir. Yeah, you can say it. A place what? A place where we would what?
Like a community, it's almost like, it's just a place where you can do the things, because I've been having to like go to all these different places, like, do stuff I like, and I'm gonna like get more stuff from kids.
So that's a really good idea.
Amen to that.
Yeah, well, it is, okay, but this building downstairs, community center. When it was built?
Did it have a gym?
It did not have a gym. Okay, but what happens is you need, what happened was that nobody came. Okay, the teens didn't come. In fact, the last place they wanted to be seen was in the community center at the teen center. So we're more than happy to be looking at what can be done. It's just really hard to come up with that magic that would bring them in. So we did programming meetings with high school students and did all kinds of things about how to go, and like could not just dump.
And I want to thank you for your question, because I think it's a good question. I bet a lot of kids, a lot of students feel the same way. I want to make sure you know about all the programming that goes on. It's not just books, right? There are clubs, Lego building, Dungeons and Dragons, and there's the opportunity maybe for an interest that maybe you have that they're not thinking about. So there's a lot of sort of kids-oriented stuff there as well. So make sure you know about it. Let me stop by the library. You got a library card?
Yeah.
Yes, the director of the library is right here.
I didn't see you there.
You can go say hello to Carissa when we get done. Say hello to her. She'd be happy to talk to you about what else is going on. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out. Yes.
Off of his question about the parking over near the water tower project, I remember about 5 years ago, there was a proposal for the Patco area to have some kind of retail and parking and stuff. Now, if that doesn't go through the tower project, could you talk to the DRPA about possibly collaborating and maybe, building a garage?
So talk to them all the time about it. Back around that when there, it was a little more than 5 or 5 years.
I bet
Yeah, I know. Like me, it was yesterday. It was 3 years ago. We had plans, and we're out on our knees to do development of the Patco speed line, and then that little reception thing hit. That's 080. Okay. So and then the DRPA and Patco ran into all kinds of their own internal issues and adopted policies that they weren't going to be doing any kind of economic development. Okay, so since that time, what they agreed to, and this is the discussion I have all the time, was no economic development that's not related to transit. But they've kind of taken the view that they're not doing it. Okay, they got in trouble for all the money they spent on redoing Admiral Wilson Boulevard and a bunch of other stuff, right? So they own the land. Talk to them, John Hanson runs the place. Talk to them all the time. But I'm like, John, it's time. Like, we got to look. Pandemic didn't help that. Only recently are those lots filling up again, right? For a while now, it's been. That's my run to work, and I'm there at 7 in the morning, and it's been empty a lot. Like, it's just not the traffic, but it's it's building up again. People are, getting back to the office. So there might be an opportunity for it, but there's been no appetite from the guy that owns the land. Okay. Yes.
I haven't heard much about the water tower project. What's going on with that?
We're in discussions with trying to address affordable housing issues with the project. In discussions with Fair Share Housing, who the advocacy group in the state that you need to deal with. Having the developer, I just talked to the developer Monday, and they have a meeting set up with the Fair Share group November 1st. So we'll see where things are with that.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's the first big hurdle we're trying to address and see how we can.
are the residents in that area gonna have input as to whether it even happens? Because I think it's gonna be a big problem.
Yeah, well, listen, we've already had a couple public meetings on it. We're doing some work to see if we can advance the project at all, get over this hurdle. If we can, then we'll be starting the process of more charrette planning, more looking at.
And that will include, you know, we can look to the police fire where we did things specifically for the neighbors around. So sometimes there's more general meetings, but we also but we gotta be further along.
Yes,
just see if we can do this.
We're not even at that point to like, that we have like a good concept. Yeah.
That's gonna have a major impact on the businesses on the avenue. They're gonna lose all their parking for their patrons.
No, it's going to include parking.
No,
Yeah, there'll actually be more.
I went to one of the meetings and you said it's gonna be like a 2-year project.
No, during construction, well, listen, all those things we will work through and figure out ways, you know, one of the things we talked about was we used to do valet parking on the avenue, okay? Like there's a lot of different things that we can work out. We'll get, if we get to a point where we decided that we're gonna build a new kitchen in the house, it will really be lousy while we rebuild the kitchen in the house. But when we get it done, like, if we are comfortable with it, like it'll be better, it'll be good. So we'll see. We aren't at the point yet where we even feel that there's going to be any construction to worry about. We're not there.
That's a good.
As soon as we are, we'll air it out.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
A few years ago, we sent in pictures of our water main coming in. I think there was a grant or something.
Oh, the lead lines. Yes.
Any update on that?
It's an ongoing process. They're doing evaluations. I don't know. I think some work is happening. If you had a lead line, I believe you would have gotten notified of it, and then there would be plans to replace. But yeah, in fact, somebody just wrote today to me about it because those inspections are still going on. Okay, but if you have that lead line, it'll be replaced. Okay. Most properties don't have, but some do. Yes.
I have concerns, and I don't think alone with this, that we have young kids who go older than that, riding their bicycle down Haddon Avenue, Town Lane, or Planet, specifically Haddon Avenue, the over street, when we already and dodge to the cars. The cars are moving. Car may only go 20 miles an hour. You have a child who's on a bicycle alongside of you. All of a sudden, decides to turn in front of you. Sooner or later, we're next to me accident. I had a conversation today with one of the captains and told me that she was not allowed to do something important. Well, I don't know if that's the right answer. It's not. There's going to be an accident for someone's pain, and I think we need to consider what we really do. I mean, have that child take the bicycle. I mean, there's got to be something easier because if they're controlling what's going on in traffic. We followed last night at 6 o'clock from Wawa down Haddon Avenue all the way to the Starbucks in Haddon. That's where we ended up. And it wasn't just one of the children.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to get together. Yeah, listen, there's just not an easy answer. Okay. Kevin, you want to talk about it? So like the herds of bikes.
Definitely call the police department. Not every time, but we have had success where we've been able to stop some of them. We take their bicycles. We hold them in station. The parents have to pick them up. A lot of times that will curb behavior. But call. We do what we can to mitigate that safety.
Yeah, I've had them, congregating and like stop and like just not say anything for them to move, and then got a lot of lift back My favorite was the kid that's standing there yelling at me, "Who do you think you are?" I wanted to answer him, but I didn't. But I just got on the phone and called our the non-emergency number and talked with them and just simply said, because they took off when I got on the phone, and I just rode behind them, safe distance, just like cops know so that they could go. But yeah, you just gotta call in. It's really, listen, this new trend in the pop-up whatever. I mean, dirt bikes coming rampaging through neighborhoods. I was in Philly last night, Broad Street, came flying by. It's really, really difficult to stop. There's state law that's been passed on the dirt bike stuff that lets us like confiscate. No.
Well, yeah, but we can't stop them.
Yeah, so I can't stop them. Can't stop them.
If they happen to stop, we can confiscate them, but you're not allowed to pursue.
It's just, it's very difficult. Some of that is very difficult. All right, what else? Yes, see you later. Right, with the DOT commissioner. So look, this is some folks from the west side. Their new little group that's formed was here at a community. Yeah, that's right. With a community town, with a county town meeting was here. They came out and asked about. This was back in January, February. Came out and asked about what could be done on the Whitehorse Pike. Louis Capelli, the commissioner, right? Commissioner Capelli followed through, and it only took 6-7 months, but we set up a meeting with the commissioner of the Department of Transportation. And he came down, we actually met here for a little bit, and then we went out to the site. Listen, he's really good. He's really good because he's not a political appointee. He's like 30 years in the DOT. He's a career guy, so he knows it all. And he came with a team, and his team had been to the site the day before, and they had a bunch of suggestions. I think one of the things they're going to implement right now is cameras on the lights at Collins and 30 that sense pedestrians still in the walkway. So the lights won't change if there's someone still in the walkway. I told them we needed it at the cover. So when I walk up Wawa from my office, I don't, I'm gonna run under that. But and then today we had another call with the DOT with a lot of the same folks, but with the long-term plan. Over the next 3 to 4 years, the Whitehorse Pike and a good portion of 130 is going to be redone, kind of from Collingswood from 130 down, 6 towns, and went over a lot of the improvements we want to see. We want to see bump outs at New Creek. We talked about the bus stop that's there. Just a lot of changes along the pike to try to improve that pedestrian safety. So they're moving and they're following up. We had two meetings today, follow up from that meeting we had the other night, which we're dealing with the state. That is light years, Star Wars light years. It's amazing. Sure. What else? Yeah, all right.
The stormwater issue.
No.
I'm not sure we don't.
Told me we're gonna talk.
I know, no,
It's always
fire. You said stormwater before I.
Listen, I come to you when I have stormwater.
Okay, I could have probably written an email, but this time I get a more immediate answer, or at least I'm going to escalate it to one of you guys. Which one of you guys would I talk to about practices that the DPW does when they work on the streets, as far as
Rob, so officially that was our meeting.
We can have a meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, maybe after the meeting. I just want to show you there's some improvements, some practices that I've seen over the years that they do that allows, when they dig up a street, they allow way too much dirt to run into the storm drains. And of course, I live near the creek, and so they just dredge the place. I don't think any of us would appreciate having more dredging done there, but
That's okay. I'd like that.
I've got some pictures.
Other reasons for it. Yeah. Yes.
I have a question. I'm been receiving at my house, and I don't know, I assume everybody receiving a letter from American Water offering services to replace maintenance.
New Jersey American, you shouldn't be because you're not a customer.
Exactly.
Collingswood. So
So I don't know why.
you just want to, you're a bit too wide of a mail list, that's all.
Unless
We're not, we're not customers. Yeah, we're
Everybody's
not
asking.
customers.
Yeah, it's had kids.
Yeah, we're not customers.
But it's sort of one of these like insurance things, right?
Yeah.
So they may, I mean, they may be kind of brand.
Well, might be bad.
I think that they do a policy from house to street. You know, where they cover that,
Oh,
that
they'll cover
part of
that?
the water
Right.
from the house to street.
Yeah.
Because not every homeowner's policy will cover that house to street, plumbing. So American Water offers an extra policy.
It's not us.
For that.
Just a private company trying to get you to buy something.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of odd because they never offered that before, and then all of a sudden, I know that my neighbors have been receiving too. So.
Yeah, not us.
Yeah, and I received it too, and it's the high school station.
What else? Anything else? Okay. Thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.